So let's get on to the main event. I know most of you know me, but I need to introduce myself. I'm Kimberly Carroll, and not only am I the director of the Animal Justice Academy, but I am a coach for changemakers. That's my day job. I've worked as a coach for 13 years now, and I worked with a lot of animal advocates, including nonprofit leaders, grassroots activists, and even counseled undercover investigators. Our AJA moderators, shout out to Jamie, Ken, Kirsten, and Ina, remarked during a recent meeting that we had that folks have really been expressing a need for more support around the emotional aspect of being an animal advocate in this world. This is obviously a particular passion of mine, and periodically I do these coaching sessions. So I figured we were overdue. So folks, before we get into the questions, I just want to make sure you're in the right place to really take this in, okay? And I know you came to an AJA thing and this may seem a little weird, but I'm just going to ask everybody to just close your eyes. This will just take 2 minutes. Close your eyes or cast your gaze downward, whatever works for you. And I just want to start with just a really nice big deep breath. And an equally long out breath. And so that we're not just doing this work today from our head, but we're doing it from our whole body, our heart. Let's just do some shoulder rolls backwards just to kind of get into the body, loosen up a little bit, let go a little bit. Good. And then just letting those shoulders relax back and down. And just tuning in for a second to the sounds in the space that you're in. There's a bird chirping behind me that I didn't notice until this very second. Notice the temperature on your skin. Just noticing if there's any smells in the air. And then just feeling into the idea that we are all here together, and there are 80 of us right now here on Zoom and a bunch of others over on the Facebook group live stream that are in here because we care deeply about animals and justice. And we are looking to find a way to be more enduring, more effective. We're looking for some supports. And so just to know that we're all in community together here, and that can be a really powerful thing all in its own. So just asking that you try to kind of keep breathing through this, and that you keep an open heart and an open mind. And just before we come back to eyes open, I just want you to get really tender, really curious with yourself. And just ask yourself, how are you, buddy? How are you, sweetheart? Just ask that question. I know it seems a little odd, but ask that question with real genuineness. How are you? And then just see what feelings come up. And let them come up. Whatever comes up, it's perfect because it's what's there and it needs room to be seen and have some space to express itself and get some air. So whatever comes up, whether it's amazing or awful or somewhere in between, just breathe into it. Where is it in your body? Where are you feeling the sensation in your body? Just breathe into it. I know that sounds dangerous, breathing into the sensation, but breathe into it. Bring some softness, bring some space to it. Almost like you're throwing the windows open to get some fresh air in there. Okay. Now let's just raise the arms above the head, big breath in. And on the exhale, I want you to drop the arms and I want you to just shake it out, okay? Just shake out the head, shake out the shoulder, really give it a good shake. Shake out the chest and the stomach and the belly and the hips and the face and even the expression on your face. Shake it out. And when you're ready, you can come back to eyes open. Oh, there's nothing like a good shake out, folks. I tell you, if I didn't, I have to shake it out several times a day to stay sane in this arena. And so, even if you take one of those tools that we just did, so let me review the tools. We just took a deep breath. That in itself can be a game changer. We just tuned into the senses, what we heard, what we felt, what we smelled. That can take you out of the emergency, the danger of the mind that you can get trapped in, and can bring you here where it's actually okay right this second. We also did a check-in, asking yourself, how are you? How are you, buddy? How are you, darling? Whatever it is, just showing a little bit of kindness to yourself. That builds self-relationship. And when you have self-relationship, you're much more resilient, much more brave. Okay. You have a safer place to come home to. And then we did the shakeout. Okay. I really believe in the power of, our thoughts become emotions, and then our emotions take up residence in our body, our physiology. And so sometimes the fast track to kind of getting out of the trap of overwhelm or pain or whatever it is that's taking you down is just to give it a good shake. Okay. It changes the chemistry in your body. It kind of creates a little bit of a disruption, and it gives you a little chance of choosing something different. All right. Okay. So, oh my God, the questions that you folks put in the Google Doc were amazing. There are a lot. I'm going to try and get through all of them. And if there are other questions, then I'll try to get to those as well. Now, okay, so this is how we're going to do it. I am going to welcome anyone who has a question that they've submitted, if they're here, to come on and speak to us, to speak to me, okay? So we can just do a little bit of a real-time exchange, because sometimes it's good to get more information and for me to see if the response is sort of hitting the mark. But there are a lot of folks that aren't actually here in the group today because they're working, but they really wanted their questions asked. Or there's some of you that just are a little shy about coming on. So I'm going to read the question, and then I'll just ask if it's your question, and if you feel like coming on to talk to me, work with me directly on this. First of all, it's such a gift to others to be able to sort of witness, being able to work through some of this stuff in real time. And sometimes you'll get a little bit better advice if I know how to get really targeted on what's actually happening for you. So if it is your question and you do want to come on, just put up your hand. So you just go to the reactions button at the bottom, and it'll give you a raise hand function that you can do. Okay, so you can just put the raise hand on, and that will allow us to see you, and I can bring you on off of mute. Okay. So Kirsten, I think what we'll do is put me on spotlight, and I can still see some of you, but I think it'll help for other folks to be able to see. All right, so the first question, I do know that this person is here, but does not want to come on because they're shy, but it's a great question. I'll just read it out. I was thrilled that my niece and her husband went vegan a year or so ago. Absolutely happy as a piggy in fresh mud. We shared our vegan rants and outrage about the treatment of animals. I really thought in particular that her husband got it. My niece had gone vegan in high school for a year, and then for some reason, I've never discussed it with her, dropped it. And she always seems more politically correct when chatting with non-vegans, primarily the parents and the rest of the family. I had such high hopes that my niece would influence her parents. They share an intensely close and mutually respectful bond, but to my disappointment, nothing changed. And I recently found out that Mark has now slipped into a few dairy items here and there, and I have no idea what else. My sister explained carefully that when he goes home to his family, they may not serve any vegan food. And Mark is the one who responded viscerally to the disturbing video clip of the woman kicking a mama cow while brutally handling her newborn baby. That's from our Animal Justice Academy investigation that we released. The clip that haunts me, it does me too. I felt like I was gut punched, felt deflated and bitter, felt mostly that I wanted nothing more to do with my family. And of course, I won't go that far, but still, these are super smart, super compassionate people. And if they don't get it, then what hope is there for anyone to change? And for enough people to change to make any real difference to the immensity of suffering of these animals? Chipping away slowly around the edges is like a tiny ant trying to take down a forest of trees. We don't deserve this planet. We don't deserve to share it with all of the other species. Our very presence defies every inch of this once beautiful space. All right, I wanted to go right into it, folks. I'm sure this is something that many of you feel. I wanted to go with the big guns right away to start off with. So I'm sure like we have folks that are understanding this. So, okay, let me address this. There's a lot here, but let me address a few things. So first of all, we're so hard on humans, and oh man, humans have fucked it up. I have no argument with that. But I think it's important that we remember that humans are animals as well, and that we as humans are, just like every other animal, are doing the best we can with our biological wiring. Okay, we have complex brains. But our instinct to survive is still the very core of the biology of animals, to protect ourselves from harm. And for humans, that becomes much more convoluted. Okay, it becomes amassing enough wealth to survive, and survival for some can be billions. It requires keeping away others that are unfamiliar to you and are not the same as you. But at the end of the day, we're similar to a bird who will scoop up a worm to survive, regardless of what's happening with that worm, and will do anything to protect their nest. Okay, even if there is a person there that has for 1,000 days not affected their nest, but they'll still do everything they can. Okay, so I just say this to basically contextualize that that we are animals and we have very similar behavior. The difference is our actions can have completely outsized impacts on this world, okay? Because of these complex brains, we've been able to build technology that is incredibly impactful and incredibly destructive if not used the right way. Okay, so I just really want to hit this home because I know there's a lot of human hating that goes on, but I really, and I get it, I'm on the same page some of the times. I mean, I get so angry. And why don't people wake up? And why aren't people more conscious? Why are people so selfish? Why are people so discriminatory? And that doesn't mean that I'm not, and I do stand up against those bad behaviors. Okay. But in my heart, there is some understanding that, oh man, these poor little creatures are doing the best they can with their biological wiring and what they know and where they're at. Okay. So hopefully that maybe takes just a little bit of the edge off. As far as your niece and nephew go, I guess it's important to remember that the vegan journey isn't always linear. I don't know if folks can put in the comments if for them it was they went vegan and that was it, or whether there was I kind of went vegan and then I kind of slipped and I kind of went back and I kind of, and so I think the thing that people that are now firmly vegan would say, the reason that they are firmly vegan is probably because they're regularly exposed to these issues. Okay, they're either in a community where these issues are being talked about, or they are, they have their radar up and they're always sort of, keeping track of what's happening. And that is probably not the world yet that your niece and nephew are in. So I think that's why it's so important not to just make vegans, but to make animal advocates. Okay. And so how do we do that? Because once you're an animal advocate, you've got more skin in the game, right? So how do you do that? Well, again, you try to make the issues a little bit more ever present. You try to engage them in communities where veganism is more and animal rights is more the norm. And that doesn't have to be a hardcore animal activism group. It can be festivals. It can be art exhibits. It can be anything around that. It could just be a party with a lot of cool vegans, right? And as far as this nephew goes, I would say your next thing that I would do is just to talk to him and to just to try to understand. And I know this can make you feel like a bit vulnerable. It can also make you feel like, oh, well, I don't have the right to say this. I don't have the right to take up this space. But you are part of this relationship that you have with your nephew. I'm going to call him your nephew. I know it's a nephew-in-law, but you are half of the equation in this relationship. So it's really makes sense that you would express to him if something is bothering you or hurting you. And you could just put it in, oh, Mark, I heard that, that the veganism thing isn't maybe going that smoothly for you. And that makes me sad. I know how, I just know how deeply you felt about that video. What is there anything getting in the way? Is there anything I can help with? And it just starts the dialogue from, a place where maybe he can be able to share. And obviously he cares. There's no doubt he cares. There's just something that's getting in the way that feels insurmountable for him. Okay. And it may just be him having to say to his family, I need vegan food. And he might have the same hang up as you about sort of expressing his needs directly and clearly. And so you might talk about that. Okay. So I really hope that this helps. And again, I'll just hit home. Everyone is doing the best they can from the level of knowledge and capability they have. We all got wired differently, and we, it's about standing up for bad behavior, but not, hating the bad behavior, but not hating the people. All right. I hope that helps. All right. I'm sorry. I hope I like to just see what's happening. Oh yeah. Okay. Everybody's giving their experiences of everything. Thank you folks for jumping in there. Okay. Let's move on to our next question. I'm not sure. Oh, yes, this is Laura's question. I have guilt about taking care of and including doing the cooking for my non-vegan parents. They're in their 80s and they are not going to become vegan. I buy and serve them animals all the time. It bothers me. Other than cooking more vegan foods, what else can I do? Now, Laura, if you're here and you would be willing to come on mic with me, just put up your hands. So you go down to the reactions and you just choose the raise hand function. And Kirsten, if you find Laura, just pop on the mic and let me know, okay? Oh, there's Laura. Okay, I got her. All right, Laura, I'm gonna add you to Spotlight. Hello, Laura. Just 1 second. I'm gonna ask you to unmute and lower hand. Hi, Laura.
Hi. Oh, am I still muted?
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. So good to have you here, Laura.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, first of all, my goodness, thank you for being such a compassionate person and taking such good care of your parents. It must be hard. It's tough. It's tough to be responsible for aging parents. So
yes, it's hard. It's hard, but especially lately. I've been vegan for a few months now, and it's finally firm. It was difficult because I lived with them and they ate meat, so it took me a little while to finally do it, but I did it. And now I'm starting to realize that if I go to the store and buy meat, I'm being hypocritical, and they're never going to be they'll never be vegans. They're in their 80s. I'm not going to change them. So I'm not sure what else. Trying to cook more vegan meals, yes, but I'm not sure how to get past the shopping for meat. I don't like putting it in my cart.
Yeah. Okay. So Laura, you said other than cooking more vegan foods, what else could I do? I know that a lot of people these days with meat and cheese and dairy analogs don't even notice. I mean,
Right.
are your parents like completely like, don't even put that in my food? Or if you were able to replace it with something that, tastes pretty well the same, that they would kind of, maybe not all the time, but start them off small and just say, hey, this is a great new dish. Let's try that. How would they respond, or how are you afraid they're going to respond to that?
Well, they're open to it. I've asked them about Beyond Meats and some of those, or even just no meat, just
Mhm.
pasta dishes with vegetables. And they
Yeah.
seem fine with that. But when I mention it, but they always mention after quietly and nicely that they're not totally pleased.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Even with I'm not a great cook and that does not help.
I see. Okay, got it. Okay, so Laura, so one of the things that might be really helpful for you is to learn how to cook vegan a little bit better.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have some hardcore non-vegans in my life, and they cannot tell the difference anymore about like with stuff. Like they really can't. And so there are a lot of dishes that you can swap out, and that might just make you feel better generally, that you're bringing down, your sort of footprint around that. And so in my experience, because Laura, I was a hardcore meat eater before I became veg, 25 years ago or something like that. And I realized, it took me a long time to realize this, but what I really craved was protein. My body just likes protein. And so I'm still like, if somebody gave me a pasta dish with just veggies, I'd be like, where's the protein? So I would be
Okay.
like kind of equally as like miffed about it. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I was at a guest place or anything, but generally I like the texture, I like the density. It does good things to my body. I like the taste of it. So I love the tofus. I love the tempehs. I love the seitan. I love the analogs. And so, so don't be afraid of using, make sure you got some protein in that dish. Now we're not here to talk nutrition or food or anything, but there's folks that are going to give you some ideas in the chat around good sources for cooking. I mean, there's lots of different things out there. So we'll message me if you don't get enough out of this. Message me on Facebook, and we
Okay.
will. And I'll give you some resources around that. Okay, point you in the right direction.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, while you're doing that, that will help to allay a little bit of your guilt, okay? Because not only will you be, have you made the decision to, choose a diet that doesn't hurt animals, but you are going to be sort of taking these people who have no intention of going vegan, and you're starting to reduce, okay? I think reducing is a huge part of our future in animal rights, okay? Is finding those people that we don't have a chance at converting, and helping them reduce can make a huge deal. But at the end of the day, Laura, I just want to say, if you do have to, feed them some meat, if you feel like it's not right for you to say, no, if I'm cooking, I'm not cooking animals, because you can do that. That's your prerogative. But I get it. I get that, they're two elderly people. I always say, as far as family goes, you can't put too much of your energy into changing your family's beliefs. Okay. I mean, you can put some in, and I know it means a lot to us because they're so close to us. It's the proximity, and you want to be on the same page as the people that you're most close to. But in the grand scheme of things, these are two elderly people, and there are millions of other folks open to and ready to transition to an animal friendly way of being. Okay. I choose to concentrate on those people. Okay.
Yeah.
There can be people that will spend so much time and energy on the people that are closest to them. And whereas they have opportunities to do activism that can affect hundreds, okay, thousands maybe. And so I think it's really important for you to just find a way, if you haven't already, Laura, that you can contribute regularly, okay, to animal or vegan advocacy. I don't know, do you have a place where you feel like you can contribute?
I have just started working with the Winnipeg Humane Society in animal
Perfect.
advocacy, so I'll be getting
Wonderful.
more involved.
Excellent, Laura. That's wonderful. Okay, perfect. And Brittany is here from the
Yeah.
Winnipeg Humane Society. It's a wonderful organization, the most progressive, one of the most progressive humane societies around. So,
Yes.
so that's wonderful. Put your energy there. Okay, up your game there. and then just say, I'll just do what I can with my family, and then I have to let go. Sometimes we are not the messenger with our family. Okay, we're not the right messenger. They need to hear it from
Yeah.
someone else.
Yes.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Okay, Laura,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for coming on and sharing with us. It really gives everybody permission to do the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll read through the comments.
Yes, please do. And if you folks have any more comments for Laura, you can let her know. All right. And Kirsten, if you don't mind, in case Laura doesn't know how to mute, you can mute her. And I'm going to go on to our next question. Okay, so this one's from Anita. Anita said, at my workplace, we're all exposed to different matters relating to animal welfare, animal rights, and animal protection. If Anita is here and you feel like coming on to talk this out, please feel free to do the raise hand function at the bottom of Zoom. And Kirsten, just keep me posted. Okay, so we're all exposed to different matters relating to animal welfare, animal rights, and animal protection. And it's safe to say that it does take a toll on the three of us emotionally. However, I've noticed that over the last few months, my colleagues get more and more frustrated and tend to take that frustration out on the team or by way of being totally avoidant. I've also started noticing this in some of my supervisors, and it's been rather hard to keep myself motivated. And as someone who plans on working for the movement in the long run, I'm concerned about my mental health as right now. It's not so great at all. Would you have any advice on how to navigate the toxicity at my workplace? Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry, Anita. That's tough. And, you know, just like every other arena in organizations in the world, we definitely have problems in animal protection organizations, you know, and some are wonderful, some are terrible, some are in between. But what really makes it much harder is when the folks that work in the animal protection tend to be there because their heart just is so into it. And the emotions run high. Okay, the emotions, the passion, the desperation to complete the mission is really high. So it just takes the stakes so much higher in a workplace where there's you know, a social justice issue, where you're working on social justice issues. Kirsten, you'll just interrupt me audio-wise if there's anything I need to know, okay? Just okay, so let's talk about some of the things you can do. Now, I don't know if you are, you know, if you have the power to implement this, but you could at least put it forward in your workplace. And that is how to put some self-care guardrails into place at the organization. And okay, this is a big topic, but I want to give you a quick overview on how this might look. So first of all, boundaries. There are organizations, especially if you're a small, scrappy organization. Oh my goodness, there can be texts at all hours of the night. There can be an expectation on the weekend if something comes up that you'll drop everything. There's just no safe time for you to be away from work. Okay, there's no safe place. You can always be reached. There's the expectation that you're reachable at any time. That is never healthy. Okay, so there has to be some boundaries put into communications in your organization. And there's some research on how important this is out there. So you don't have to go into this, just this is a hunch I have. But when there are boundaries in communications in a company, there's not as much burnout. There's just tends to be a healthier environment. So those boundaries could look like anything like no emails to be sent after 6, or if they're sent, there is an understanding that nobody needs to get back to them until the next day. There could be absolutely dedicated days off where there is no contact. There can be and if you can't get the organization to do this, you've at least got to decide some boundaries around this. Okay, so for example, I'm going to have one day a week where I don't have my phone on, I don't go on a line, I don't do anything. And if you have to let your employers know that, let them know that. That's shouldn't be a big deal. You should be getting 2 days off at least a week. And so believe me, sometimes it feels weird asking for these things, but hey, if they can't do the minimal, they're not the right organization to be with. Okay, it might just be that this is the way they've always done it, and they, you could just start the conversation and just say, hey, I've noticed that people are seeming pretty burnt out and everything. So these are some techniques that I've read about. Maybe we could start a little committee to look at this. So you didn't mention, Anita, that overwhelm is one of the reasons for the environment and people sort of getting burnt out. But I'm going to assume overwhelm is one of the things. And so another piece that is really important in putting these self-care guardrails into place is an organization getting more clear about what their priorities are so that they can focus more. Okay. And that can be in the form of deliberate long-term planning so that they, in a really thoughtful way, you folks can decide where you're putting your energy. I mean, there's a million things we can do campaigns on, a million. But if you are, trying to do it all, you're not going to do anything well, and you are going to burn out your people. Okay. So it's so important. If people are just not like keeping up, it means the organization doesn't have their priorities straight. Okay. And that's something, I mean, even in an organization like Animal Justice, we've got to constantly, be looking, what are our priorities? And we often will go off in tangents because we're so passionate, but we've got to come back to what's the original plan, and keeping vigilant about that. Another little thing I love to disrupt the toxicity in a workplace is just at the beginning of meetings, doing something a little different, like maybe going around the circle and just sharing a struggle that you've had this week. Whether it be logistical, whether it be emotional, it can be in relation to the work and animal issues, but also an appreciation. Okay. Now, our animal justice board meetings always start with an appreciation. We just all share something that we're feeling good about, we're feeling lucky about. It might be an appreciation for another team member. It might be an appreciation for something we've done as an organization, or it might just be an appreciation from that day, something that pleased us, something that felt good. Okay. And I think it's also important to bring to the workplace resources on how to work through compassion fatigue and overwhelm. Okay. Again, I don't know if you have the capacity or the organization has the capacity to do it. But for example, like I just spent in the last 3 weeks, 3 months, I just did bi-weekly trainings with a social enterprise, a wonderful social enterprise. And with their team, and I just took them through all of these sort of steps of around resilience, around productivity, around compassion fatigue, around time management, and all of the above. So, I mean, having an outside source can really help with that, or having a counselor sourced for your folks can be really helpful too. And the last thing I'm going to say on this question is, it's really important for individuals and a group to connect to the why of what's behind their work. Okay, what's behind your work? It can be so easy to get caught up in the logistics and the little scraps and the busyness. But when we come back to what originally brought you to this work, maybe what originally brought you to this organization, and you really feel into that, and you really just imagine who you're touching, who this work is touching, the ripples it's creating. Okay, sometimes that allows you to be able to let go of some of the smaller things. Sometimes it gives you, replenishes you a little bit to remember, okay, like maybe you envision the people that are having a big aha from seeing one of your campaigns, or maybe you're envisioning less, animals sort of, I mean, this isn't what really happens, but animals being freed from, that every week you're sort of sparing the life of 1,000 chickens. Just imagine 1,000 chickens being free. Okay. And again, I know that's not how it works. Those chickens will not be bred to begin with. But it just gives you a little bit more of a visceral idea of the pain and suffering that is being stopped because of the work you're doing. Okay. And that can really fuel you. All right, Anita, thank you for that question. So good. All right. I'm going to go on to Monica. Monica asked, just trying to figure out boundaries and feeling drained whenever I open my email, paper mail, or social media accounts. As an animal advocate, I subscribe and follow many different rescues, sanctuaries, and global organizations, and the constant stories on animal exploitation and abuse feels never ending. It really affects me on a deep, deep level. I can be having a good day, but as soon as I read or see photos about a particular issue, it's hard to get back to a good place. Last year, I did cut back and unfollowed a few accounts to make things more manageable, but it's still hard and I don't want to be completely out of the loop. Additionally, it's difficult to know how to help as I can't continue to donate and the signing of petitions doesn't always seem to be enough. The feeling of powerlessness is also very draining. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Okay, I don't think Monica's here today, but if you are, Monica, put up your hand so I can talk to you directly. All right, so I've been at it for a long time, folks, animal rights, and I will tell you, and I even work in it, and I can tell you, I can't even handle a slow drip of animal suffering, okay? Just get this, understand this, okay? You all came to this because you care about animals and or justice, and yet now that you're in it, you are exposed to the worst atrocities of animals constantly. I mean, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be comical, really. And so, so just to have some tenderness and understand, oh my God, this is a really tough conundrum. Now, I understand about staying informed, and I do believe that's important as an animal advocate, but I believe that we have to have very particular boundaries and deliberateness about how we take in the information, how we stay informed. Okay. So, for example, okay, well, I'll tell you what I do. There are times in my day, there's really a time in my day, and not every day, but certain days where I will purposely review all of the hard stuff. Okay. And I set a time in my day where I know I'm not going to be rushed, where I know that there's some space for me to break down and cry or get angry or get depleted. And I will have enough space to do some activities afterwards that will help, to buoy me up again. And so I don't just I'm not on Facebook just going, oh, what's this cruelty? What's this abuse? Oh, this dead, being. No, I'm very deliberate about it. And so again, it might not be for me. I'm working in this space. So it does have to kind of be every day for me, but it's just a very small part of my day. But for some of you, it may just be once a week. Okay. Especially those that are so really highly sensitive. You will have to, if you're scrolling and there's something and you're like, I have to see this, but I can't, this isn't my time. Save it. Don't look at it. Just save it and go back to your saves in Facebook or Instagram at that one time a week and take it all in. And I know that feels like a lot to take in at once, but it's better, like I said, than the slow drip where you never, of cruelty and suffering, where you never get a chance to recuperate. You never get a chance to bounce back. That's how burnout happens. That's how emotional burnout happens. Okay. I also think that it's important for you to have a ritual before and after you take in that information in a deliberate manner. And that, when I say routine or ritual, it could just be some deep breaths. And at the end of it, it could be shaking it out. Okay. Or it could be writing about it, doing a mind dump about it. Okay. Or it could be cuddling, having a 5-minute cuddle with a fur friend of yours. Okay. So some way of just saying, okay, because I know that we feel that we should be immersed always in the suffering of animals because they're all out there and they're suffering the worst existence possible. But folks, it's not the way you're going to stay strong enough to fight this bloody mountainous battle that we have. Okay. This is such a gargantuan mission that we're on. We have to be able to stay strong. And the only way to stay strong is to feed yourself. Okay. Is to strengthen yourself. And you can't do that through just misery and suffering. You got to do the things that make you feel healthy, make you feel good. Okay. That make you feel love, make you feel hope for fighting in this world. All right. And last thing I'll just say, Monica, You mentioned not knowing how to help outside of donating and signing petitions. Well, that's what Animal Justice Academy is all about. If you didn't get through the whole program, I'll tell you, you got to hit week 2. It's all about advocacy in our communities. So no matter where you are, whether it's your workplace, your school, your church, or whatever, ways of being an animal advocate. There's week 3 is all about engaging in political systems. So you can be doing some huge things just from your own home and your computer with creating relationships with your political reps. And then week 4 is all about how ways individuals can help expose cruelty. Okay, so there you go. I recommend going through those 3 weeks, and you're going to have some amazing ideas of how you specifically, with your skill set, your background, your character, can help animals. All right. These are great questions, but I'm not going through them fast enough. Sorry. Okay. Janice can never make it. She's always working during lunchtime lives, but she always watches the replay. So I promised her I'd address her question, or her concern. It's more of a concern. She was saying it's the egos, the manipulation, the lies, the childhood gossiping, the me self-centric approach that people have generally in life. And I think she means this movement that befuddles me. I've always attempted a team approach to life, and especially in animal advocacy. It seldom has ever worked. And I'm not new to activism by any means. The animals lose when people walk away from it in despair. Okay, so she was just wanting me to kind of talk a little bit about that. So thank you, Janice. I'm sure this is something that a lot of us can relate to. I mean, I've certainly landed myself in the middle of a lot of conflict, with fellow animal advocates, always. So one of the things I really try to be aware of is that a lot of people, especially in the animal rights movement, have what I call in my practice a powerlessness wound. And that is, most of us have had an experience of being very powerless sometime in our childhood. We had the experience of powerlessness in one way or another, whether it was just parents that weren't around to hear you, having a volatile parent, having an addicted parent, sexual abuse. There's lots of ways that powerlessness wounds happen. And so it makes sense that those of us who have powerlessness wounds would be drawn to the most powerless population on our planet. The whole thing isn't about whether you have a powerlessness wound. It's about how you might act out of it, or how you can pour, that it might be that your powerlessness wound or somebody's powerlessness wound is pouring fuel on a fire. So what I think I just say this so that you can recognize that the anger, the aversions, the ego stuff, it's all about, a lot of it's coming from people who just didn't have enough power in their formative years, and me included, and haven't been able to deal with that yet, haven't been able to process that yet, and heal it. And so they're raw, they're ready to they're ready to fight. They're ready to defend themselves at all costs. Okay. And so I think it's important to be aware that when you're dealing with others, because of this sort of idea of powerlessness, that first of all, not to take it personally. I know it's really hard because it can be very pointed attacks, but I want you to think about how a wild animal is if they get cornered. Okay, if they, you find a wild animal in a cabin and they get into the corner, and they'll hiss, and they'll attack. They'll try to do this, and we don't take that personally, right? As humans, we don't take that personally. We're like, that's their nature. Okay. They're really scared and they think we're going to kill them. Okay. So we don't take that personally. We just know they're scared and they're hurting. So if there's just a way to retain a little bit of that with humans, with these activists, to realize that they are hurting and threatened as well. Now, not everybody that creates, debate or questions your approaches or questions the way things are being done by any means, those aren't that, I'm not talking about those people necessarily. Those people are, it's important to lesson. Okay. It's important to hear these voices and consider them. And that's where the powerlessness wound in you is important. Okay. And I'm not saying that everybody has a powerlessness wound, but it seems to be my experience of working with hundreds of animal advocates that that is a common thing. And so try to be aware of your powerlessness wound and how you might act out of it that could pour fuel on the fire. Okay. Maybe you read into things more than you would if you didn't have this sort of wound. Maybe you throw up your arms in the air too early around things because that's your way of maintaining some power. And, maybe, yeah, like, conflict is hard, but what we need to have in conflict, when again, it's more valid conflict, not when it's just so unreasonable and so vicious that we just have to treat them like the cornered animal in the corner. But for actual, conflict that comes from a source that you're like, oh, I should probably listen. You have to have a growth mindset, okay? And when you have a growth mindset, conflict isn't just draining and depleting. It can actually be something that you can grow and learn from, okay? It's important for us to be open to the process of be open to process other ideas, okay? I know that can be hard for us, especially because we are having to steel ourselves against the majority views of almost the entire planet. So we get used to sort of girding ourselves into this. But when it comes to other animal advocates, well, first of all, we are all in the big umbrella, the same team. And so maybe there is something in what they have to say that might be worth processing. Hey, that processing might take 5 seconds. You might go, think about it, consider. No, I know I've really studied this. I've really considered this from all angles and I'm good. I'm like where I'm at. I feel comfortable standing there. Okay. But if you don't take that second, just that second to think, anything that I should maybe retain, should maybe consider further, then you're doing yourself a disservice and ultimately you're doing the movement and the animals a disservice. All right. Finally, I'll just say about this question. You talk about egos, and there are animal advocates have all kinds of different approaches, they're at all kinds of different places in their journey. We need to be able to understand that and kind of expect that and realize that there are many different seasons and approaches in activism that have different but valuable gifts. Okay, so often I see the veteran activists and the new activists, fighting over who's, doing better activism. The young activists with all their energy and passion are doing some amazing things. And the older folks who have the experience and wisdom of years behind them are doing important things. It's just different. Okay. So to be able to be a little bit more open to those different ways of doing advocacy. All right, folks, let me see here. We are almost at 1 p.m., but I'm happy to keep going because there's still more and I don't want to leave you hanging. So feel free. I will not at all take it personally. When you need to drop off, drop off. I will just say before you do that to make sure to join us on June 2nd when Dr. Chandrasekhara is going to be joining us and talking about getting animals out of the labs and the work she's doing to come up with animal alternatives. Also, I know one of the things that I just want to say while I still have you, this is really important. As I said in Animal Justice Academy, week 6, we cover tons of this stuff and a little bit in week 4 too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Kirsten put into the chat some links. Okay. Now you can just go into the course on Animal Justice Academy and you can watch them and it's nice and easy. But I mean, some of you have forgotten your password. Some of you, it's too hard to access, whatever. I want this to be really straightforward for you. So I put them up on Google Drive. I put these are just mine. So I felt able to upload them. I just have them on my Google Drive and there are 4 different videos with different themes like what we're talking about. Okay. So please feel free to if you haven't watched them, watch them. And I give you really specific tactical tools in them. And if you've watched them already, maybe it's time for a refresh. Also, I want to just say that I also have resources on my website, kimberlycarroll.com. In particular, I have one, I have a resource for helping change makers become more effective and resilient. Okay. And it's not dedicated just to animal advocates, because I work with social justice, environmental activists as well. And so, but a lot of the same things apply. And it's a great little course. It's like just a mini course, it's free. You just register for it. It's free. I send you a video every 2 days, and they're about 15 to 20, maybe about 15-minute videos. And again, lots of tools on everything from productivity to creating your own practice and routine to keep you resilient, to let me see, creating more space, more boundaries, and tools. Oh, this is a really important one. Tools for helping you process pain. Okay, so yeah, Kirsten put the link to that in. All right, so folks, oh, we still have quite 75 of you staying right now. That's awesome. Let's keep going here. All right, these are such good questions, folks. Love it. Okay, Barry Mabillard, who is here with us, but it doesn't want to come on to speak because he's much more of a writer, and I always love his writing. And he wrote this. He says it's the catharsis of a vegan buying non-vegan items for his wife. I am vegan, and I'm gonna truncate this a little bit, Barry, just because we don't have a lot of time. I'm a vegan. My wife is an omnivore. I do the majority of the household grocery shopping, and that's how I came to be a vegan that purchases non-vegan items. My wife is very supportive of my vegan philosophy and kindly offered to purchase the non-vegan items during her own shopping trips, but I declined her offer as she really doesn't have the time for superfluous peregrinations to the grocery store when I'm right there anyway. I love you, Barry. Yet, while it may seem like the most trivial of tasks, picking up items on the list and putting them in the cart, the philosophical rumblings in my brain would make one think I was deliberating a Supreme Court case. And then he gives examples of his neural hyperactivity, like wanting to remonstrate with my wife on the virtues of vegan equivalents to her animal source foods. As I walked past the numerous vegan cheeses to pick up dairy cheese on the list, my brain strategizes, if only she could give vegan cheese brands more of a chance. And then he talks about the guilt for the monetary contributions to the industries I have pledged not to support. He says, I know this emotion is illogical as the demand for the animal sourced product did not originate from me, even if I'm the one making the purchase, but it still feels icky. I would rather see those dollars go towards supporting vegan brands. And he also said, presenting as a hypocrite to those who know I'm vegan. So somebody catching him buying non-vegan food. So Barry, first of all, I just want to say, I understand. I don't have this really close sort of domestic problem, because luckily my partner is very much a vegan and an animal rights advocate, and part of the Animal Justice Academy as well. But I do remember with my grandfather just being at his place, and he'd be like, I didn't get to see him very often. He's like, oh, can you pick up a quart of milk on the way over? And I'm like, oh man, he's 90 years old. Okay, I know he's not going to change, although he did watch Meet Your Meat and understood me at one point, sort of understood me, but he's beyond changing. Okay. And if I had to do it every day, it would have been a different story, but I just went, okay, not worth the hullabaloo or over it. My energy can be used better elsewhere. So Barry, the fact that this action causes you mental gymnastics on a regular basis, and it's not something you're comfortable with, it may just be time to accept your wife's offer of doing her own shopping. Okay. Yes, I know you're just buying what she would have bought, so you're not technically putting any money into the industry, but you are making it easier for her. Okay. It is just a little bit of a tacit condoning. It's a tacit condoning. Okay. But that's not the most important part. Okay. Again, there's different reasons I gave our other speaker, Laura, I gave Laura some advice that's different for that situation. But I think what's important to acknowledge for you is it drains your energy. and for good reason. Okay. So instead of the micro manipulations that you talk about and you don't want to be part of, I would suggest you being very open and direct about how it just doesn't feel good for you, and you realized how it doesn't feel good for you, and if she's still willing, can she do her own shopping. Now this might feel hard for you, but what I need you to do is ask yourself why. Okay, ask yourself why. Now, I know that you're trying to help your wife. You love her and you're trying to, take some of the stuff off of her shoulders, but she wants to do the same thing for you. She doesn't want to make you suffer. She doesn't want to make you have to do these mental gymnastics, once or twice a week when you go shopping, feel like you're going against your values, to help her out with a little favor. So yeah, ask yourself, is it people pleasing? Is it a people pleasing pattern? Do you have a pattern of like feeling really bad when you don't do what people want for you? I know I do. That's been one of my things that I've had to deal with. Or another possibility is that you maybe prize intellect over heart too much. So you're like, well, logistically, this all makes sense. But your heart, on the other hand, is going, no, 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 no. And maybe you need to honor the heart. I like a combination of the both. Okay, but so see if there's one that's a little bit out of whack there, and realize, Barry, these are values that are so vital for you. They're so close to your heart and your mind, and so you have every right in the world to ask for this. Okay, and in fact, maybe your wife will feel good about helping you out in this way. All right. And hey, I keep feeding her different vegan cheese, Barry. You never know what's going to happen. Okay. All right. I see so many beautiful comments in the chat. I'm sorry I don't have time to read through them all. That's the problem with just being a solo act today. But I promise I'll read them all afterwards in the chat. I'll download it and read it. All right, let's see. I'm going to keep going. I was recruited by and have recently started working for an animal rights organization that I have true respect for and have been a member of for many years. Well, congratulations. On paper, the job sounded perfect for me, almost a dream job. I have only been working there for a very short time, but due to the nature of the work, now I am not sure it's for me. I can't tell if it's the newness of the job or the difficulty of the content or both that is causing me significant anxiety and what feels like a type of burnout. Can I feel burnout after 3 months? What strategies would you recommend to address these feelings? Also, what strategies can you recommend for dealing with non-vegan family and friends who are supportive of my vegan lifestyle? Okay, anyway, I think we already addressed that one in our first thing. So let me just address this 3-month burnout. Yes. Can I be burnt out in 3 months? Absolutely, you can. If you are living and breathing this stuff every day, absolutely. And if you don't have proper coping mechanisms in place, okay? So we already talked about boundaries some. You might not be able to, being a newbie, you're probably not going to be able to change the org that much. You can always try. I know this is a big topic in animal protection organizations right now. I mean, there's a lot of talk about burnout and people are starting to listen. There's more talk about 4-day work weeks. There's like lots of stuff's rumbling. So this is a great time to be able to champion a cause like this around, how to prevent more burnout. And I gave suggestions on an organizational level a little earlier. But right now, let's just focus on what you can establish for yourself. So I'm going to recommend no checking email before or after a certain time in your day. Having full days off from any animal protection stuff whatsoever. I have what I call a sacred Sunday, and there's varying degrees of sacred Sunday for me. Now I just use Sunday because that's the day that's easiest for me to take off and unplug, but that's what I do. I mean, I try not to go online, at least not on social media. If you see something posted, it's because I've scheduled it ahead of time. I just try not to generally do a lot of technology. I turn my ringer off. I turn all notifications off. And sometimes I'll even do part of the day in silence, just to be able to give myself time to recuperate, to be safe for a little while. Okay. Everybody needs to feel safe. Everybody. And so, and again, when we feel safer and we feel rejuvenated, we will do far better work and for far longer. Okay, remember that. If you don't do it just for yourself, do it for the animals, because that is a key. The other thing is to be kind to yourself. Okay, yes, you're in a new job. A new job is stressful for anybody, never mind a new job with such high stakes. So be kind for yourself. Find someone to share your struggles with. And also those, I will really recommend you watching the link, the module on processing pain and compassion fatigue. That will give you, I have a bunch of actual tools that you can, do on the spot, or you can do daily, to help you basically process the pain that's inherent to being an animal advocate, especially when you're working in it full time. And the other thing I'm going to recommend is the one about boundaries and refueling yourself. Kirsten, I can't remember the title, but if you can drop that in there. I'm not sure if you're here, but if you're not, I'm going to put these in the Facebook comments so that you have them. All right, good luck with it. I hope you can find a way to settle in. It sounds like you're a really caring person, and we need people like you in the movement. All right, let's just see here. Okay, I think this might be the last one. Yeah, this is the last one I'm going to do. Folks, again, I am so sorry if there are ones that came up in the chat. I just wanted to honor those that sort of took the time to put them in the Google Docs. But this is really showing me that we need to do this more. And so maybe one of the other things I'm going to mention is I'm actually starting a changemakers session every 2 weeks. I'll be starting that in about a month, where I'm going to be doing a session like this with more, more interaction. It's not going to be specifically for animal advocates. It'll be for any social justice, people working in social justice. And so I would love to have you join for that. And it's going to be every 2 weeks. So it'll be a chance to really come into this energy, learn new tools. I'm going to be teaching something new each time, and then I'm going to be answering questions. So if you want to know about that, again, just go to my website, sign up for the newsletter or the 5-part course, and that'll get you into my email list, and you'll get notifications about when the Changemakers sessions begin. All right, last one, and this is from Christine, and I think Christine might be here, so I'm going to give Christine the option of raising your hand if you're here and you want to talk this out with me. Okay, Christine? And if not, I will work on it on my own. I started my journey through Rachel Carson's writing. So I started through environmental action in the 70s. I could see the impact of humans on animals, especially wild animals and dog breeding, but was completely unaware of what was happening in agriculture. I'd never been a fan of meat and become vegetarian in the late 90s and then vegan in 2008. I am lucky that my sister and brother-in-law joined in the journey, and my daughter and her partner are also vegan. What I'm having difficulty with is everything is interconnected. Human rights, animal rights, planet health. I'm going through an existential crisis. I moved to another province at the start of the pandemic, and the culture shock has taken me by storm. By and large, there is zero recognition of the climate emergency. There is no recognition of animal rights, and it feels as if I'm in a time warp. I'm back at the start of my journey in the 70s. I literally don't know what to do. I have no energy left and live with this sense of dread every day. How do I get over this? I've looked for a therapist, but when I mention existential dread, I get meditating, journaling, finding something that I enjoy. I've been doing that and it no longer works. Where do I go from here? I feel like a real Debbie Downer when I talk to people, so I keep things as light as possible. I think a lot of people can relate, but inside I feel as if I'm dying a death by 1,000 cuts. See what I mean? I can still laugh and appear as if I'm functioning normally, but that's not at all what I feel like on the inside. I see animal rights, human rights, the planet as so interconnected that there isn't any demarcation line between them. It's everywhere, every day. And she said, I would understand if you don't want to discuss this. My view of the world is very dark indeed. Well, Christine, we absolutely do want to discuss this. So thank you, Christine. I'm so glad you stepped up. I'm going to ask you to unmute, darling. Hi, can you, so you just need to unmute now.
All right.
There, Christine, thank you. Oh, hun, I'm so glad you came on because this is a lot to dig into and you're hurting. My goodness,
Yes.
This is so much to be holding on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. And thank you. Thank you for doing this since the 70s. Holy cow. And the fact
Yeah.
that you're still standing, you must be doing something right. Everybody's saying, Christine, you are so strong.
Well,
Amazing.
not so much.
Well,
It's yeah.
you are, Christine. It's just, it's the weight of it. Not one person can handle it all. Okay.
And I honestly, I feel extremely fragile.
Yeah.
Just talking to different people here, and I've left my because I moved a couple of years ago to a different province. I left my network of people. And when you move, even though there's email and Skype and everything else, it's not the same. You're not there. You're not chatting with them, and you're on your own.
Yeah.
And I talk to the neighbors, and it just feels I am so out of step. And I said to my sister, and my sister feels the same way. And we sort of feel like the world has passed us by, and we're not. This is why I didn't want to unmute.
Yeah, you know what, Christine, as I say to all of my coachees, holding in tears makes no sense. It's like trying to hold in diarrhea. Don't do it. Just, we're all here. We're all on the same page.
You're
There's so
channeling my daughter now.
There are so many people in the chat that relate to you, and you really are representing so many people, Christine. So yeah. Okay, so why don't we break this down a little bit, okay?
Sure.
So first of all, this is why community is so important. Okay?
Yes, it is. I didn't feel like this in Toronto because I had, and Nate was my MP.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So I've come here and I cannot connect with anybody in any political field, municipal, provincial or federal. Anyway, it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So
absolutely. Well, I will tell you that Ken Hopkins is
I know Ken.
You know Ken? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
So
I don't know him. He's in a different part of New Brunswick, but
okay. Oh, I thought he was near Moncton. Okay, so sorry. But yeah, he might be able to give you the 411 on some of the places and some of the people to hook up with. So Ken, I'm gonna put that out there. Are you on Facebook, Christine?
No, because part of all my social justice stuff, I would be on there and I would be posting things, and it just got too vicious. And I was too woke. And people were just coming at me from all sides, and I just got off Facebook, and it feels a very uncomfortable and unsafe place for me.
I got it. Understood. Well, I will tell you that even if you were to start an account with a name that isn't yours and no friends, you don't need to have any friends, but you join the Animal Justice Academy, the Facebook group I feel like it's an oasis. Okay. It's community. It's a lot of people that are going through this similar things. And we talk them out. There's resources, we have laughs, we witness people's suffering. And so even if, and I would just recommend for that, just come on and maybe a couple times a week or once a day, you jump on Animal Justice Academy and you share what's happening. And you just take in, like, again, we purposely built this community to be a safe, nurturing community. I mean, hey, sometimes there's dust ups. Yes. But generally I think we get along pretty well. What do you think, folks, in the comments? And so I invite you, because you really need some online support right now while you're trying to figure out your in-person supports. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say is, you mentioned about trying to find a therapist, but the whole existential thing, and nobody therapists live for existential shit. Okay, Christine,
you would think.
So, I mean, I love working on that stuff. I love working with people on the deep questions. Okay. So don't just shop around a little bit. Don't be, and be be willing to do it online via Zoom
Yeah.
so that you have more choices. Okay.
Oh, definitely. Like,
yeah.
New Brunswick, beautiful province.
Mhm. Yeah. But
There's a lot that is.
Yeah. Absolutely. But you know what? The thing that I know about smaller places and more sort of regional, rural places is that the people that are animal advocates and are vegan they are just looking to bond. They're looking to connect. Okay. Just as much as you are. So, and they're dedicated and they, and they're usually salt of the earth. Right.
Yeah.
So see what you can do with any veg organization, any sort of, any places where you might find like-minded people. Go there because you need to be around you need to at least have a little spike of being around like-minded people once in a while. Okay. So that you don't think you're totally an alien. All right. The other thing is that I think you need to find a couple of key people in your life that you can be completely real with, where you don't have to be light and airy, where you can take your deepest, darkest stuff. And it doesn't have to be all the time, but maybe, you said your sister is
live
on the
next
same
door to my sister. So
perfect. Yeah. So maybe you two need to have like a dedicated time, like every week where you sit down and you talk about it and you really like, there's no needing to be strong. There's no needing to see the bright side where you just, just let the tears go and just go, I get what you're saying. Okay. You need to have a couple places in your life where that are a safe harbor where you can break down. Okay. Strong people break down because they're taking in so much. Okay. Strong, like it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of you taking on a lot by yourself. Okay. So you need support. You need holding, Christine. Okay. You do. And I hope that you maybe feel a little bit held here in this group today.
I do.
Yeah.
My Chihuahua, her legs are not strong enough.
I bet you try. she tries. and I think so. I think the thing I really want to hit home is don't shoulder this by yourself, Christine. Nobody could. Okay, nobody can. Some of the best animal advocates I know, the strongest, most powerful animal advocates I know, they all have counselors, coaches, therapists.
Yes,
they all do.
Yeah, and my support network was because they were all, we were all thinking about the environment and social justice and animal welfare and animal rights. We were all on the same page. But you leave them and they've got stuff that they're still doing. And so.
Okay. Well, Christine, I'm going to get you to email the Academy. Okay. Just we're academy@animaljustice.ca. And there's a bunch of resources that have been put in the chat. Okay. And people that are saying such beautiful things. Somebody wants to move to where you are just to support you. And I know Faye, I can see Faye's face and she's in the same boat, right, Faye? Like, Faye's in a rural community in Western Ontario. And I know she can relate to you a lot. And even if you just had a little support group, even if it wasn't in person, but you had a little support group of those of you living in these areas, that could be really good too. But what we're going to do is we're going to email you the resources that people shared because you might not have enough time to read through it here.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the last thing that I want to say, Christine, because you were seeming so discouraged by the fact that people aren't getting it. I hope that, I don't know if you were here for the first question I answered, but that idea of people, doing the best they can with their biological imperative and their limited, their limited learning through their life, right? And also, I'll add to that, the bandwidth, okay?
Yeah.
We in this world, there is so much that needs to be fixed. There is so much that is wrong. There's so much that's beautiful too, but the news doesn't cover any of that. So we get a very unbalanced perspective on that. Anyway, the fact is that people they don't have the bandwidth to consider everything. Okay. A lot of people have families that they're struggling with. A lot of people have financial stuff. A lot of people have other causes. And so it's not surprising that animal advocacy isn't number one on everybody's agenda. And to realize that, if we live by the assumption it's because they don't care, that's going to kill us. If we live by the assumption that they don't have enough bandwidth for whatever reason, and I'm just going to keep on inviting them to listen. I'm going to keep on being there as a reason to listen.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all we can do. And to find your place, Christine, where you can most effectively contribute. Do you have that place? Yeah. That might be part of it, Christine. Okay. So that might be part of it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to really invite you to spend the time that you have, because you're not hanging out with all your fun vegan friends. And I'm going to invite you to actually spend some time really getting clear about, what do you, because life has not passed you by in this movement. We need you. We need your wisdom. We need your kindness. We need you to reach out to like-minded and like-charactered people. So I want you to look at, okay, what are your qualities? What are your skills? What's your experience? What's your background? Okay. And how can I best use these to contribute to the movement? And just as I did with one of our other question askers, I said, watch, week 2, week 3, and week 4 again.
Yeah.
Okay. And get some ideas, try to get some ideas about an organization that might be interesting to work for, a thing that you might be good at, a thing that's needed.
Yeah. I mean, I am trying to build relationships with the office staff of my provincial MP. And
Yes.
and I'm working on, and the federal MP as well, but just trying to build those connections.
Good. Well, definitely talk to Ken, because that's what he's doing too. Okay. So you two, you folks, I'm sure there's many more there in New Brunswick, you folks could form a little alliance, so that when you're meeting with a political rep, there's a few of you, it makes more of a, impact. And believe me, the East is where a lot of the political and legislative, that's where we're focusing some of our changes right now. Okay. So don't think life has passed you by being there in New Brunswick. Stuff's about to happen.
All right. Excellent.
Okay, Christine. Well, giving you a big hug, and there's so much love in the chat for you.
I was amazed at all the
Christine, you deserve to take up any space you need. You deserve it. Yes. And I love it. And there's so many good resources in this chat, folks. So if you haven't already taken a look, somebody brought up Mindbeam as a free resource in Ontario. I'm not sure if it's available other places, but we'll, like I said, I'll help you with some of the resources if you email us. Okay. And please join us in the Facebook group, Christine.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Well, folks, thank you so much. It was just beautiful to see you here in the chat, and so engaged, and so many of you show up here today. I'm only one opinion. I am only one approach. You may not have agreed with everything I said. I hope you will be able to take the nuggets that did resonate with you and expand on them, work with them. And again, just like I talked about in one of the other questions, if it doesn't resonate with you, you let it go. You considered it, move on. All right. So we'll try and do this again really soon. And so that I can accommodate some of the other questions that I didn't get a chance to answer. But in the meantime, we'll see you on June 2nd. Please join me over at kimberlycarroll.com for news about the changemakers sessions that I'm going to be starting. And I am so very appreciative, so thankful that you're part of this community, folks. Mwah. Have a wonderful week ahead. Let's be there for ourselves and for the animals. Bye-bye.